Hello and welcome to this continuing First Look Exploring session, looking at The Widow's Tears by George Chapman, where we ask the ever-important questions of, was Chapman an incel? Yeah. We're detecting, shall we say, some issues with the morality of this play, which we will discuss and or sideswipe and see what comes out the other end. We're halfway through the play, almost halfway through the play. We're in the second session, starting in Act 2, Scene 4, and we're going to find out how we can deal with some of the things that Chapman throws at us. Reading today, Tharsalio is...
Lynn Chapple.
Reading Ianthe, Eudora, and Lycus is...
Gregory and Straps on Avon, wondering how many characters we can actually excise.
Yes, there are quite a few characters in this play, but only about 5 of them say anything, and one of them disproportionately so. Reading Argus and Lysander today is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm in the Northwestern United States, and I had to go out for coffee this morning. It's a long story.
Yeah, coffee is definitely needed. We're starting late already today because we mostly wanted to talk about something other than this play.
And you'll see why.
We were having so much fun discussing detective fiction. Anyway, reading Hylus, Clinias, Rebus, and Ero is...
And that's a little clue as to why we were discussing detective fiction, Aliki in Athens.
Reading Sthenia and Cynthia today is...
Sarah Blake, and I've never read any Rebus books.
There's still time. We are not sponsored by Ian Rankin in any way, shape, or form. I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading some of the random people. And stage directions. There are 3 characters who say about 1 or 2 lines each in this entire session, and I'm reading them. Without further ado, however, we're going to dive into Act 2, Scene 4. Enter Argus, Clinias, Sthenia, and Ianthe.
I must confess I was ignorant what 'twas to court a lady till now.
And I pray you, what is it now?
To court her, I perceive, is to woo her with letters from court. For so this Spanish lord's court discipline teacheth.
Oh, his lordship hath procured a new packet from his altitude.
That's not me.
Clinias?
Me. If he bring no better ware than letters in his packet, I shall greatly doubt of his good speed.
If his lordship did but know how gracious his aspect is to my lady in this solitary humour.
Well, these retired walks of hers are not unusual, and bode some alteration in her thoughts. What may be the cause, Sthenia?
Nay, 'twould trouble Argus with his 100 eyes to descry the cause.
Venus keep her upright, that she fall not from the state of her honour. My fear is that some of these serpentine suitors will tempt her from her constant vow of widowhood. If they do, good night to our good days.
'Twere a sin to suspect her. I have been witness to so many of her fearful protestations to our late lord against that course, to her infinite oaths imprinted on his lips, and sealed in his heart with such imprecations to her bed, if ever it should receive a second impression, to her open and often detestations of that incestuous life, as she termed it, of widows' marriages, as being but a kind of lawful adultery, like usury, permitted by the law, not approved, that to wed a second was no better than to cuckold the first, that women should entertain wedlock as one body, as one life, beyond which there were no desire, no thought, no repentance from it, no restitution to it, so as if the conscience of her vows should not restrain her, yet the world's shame to break such a constant resolution should repress any such motion in her.
Well, for vows, they are gone to heaven with her husband. They bind not upon earth. And as for women's resolutions, I must tell you, the planets, and as Ptolemy says, the winds, have a great stroke in them Trust not my learning if her late strangeness and exorbitant solitude be not hatching some new monster.
Well applied, Argus. Make you husbands monsters?
I spoke of no husbands. But you wenches have the pregnant wits to turn monsters into husbands, as you turn husbands into monsters.
Well, Ianthe, 'twere high time we made in to part our lady and her Spartan wooer.
We shall appear to her like the two fortunate stars in a tempest to save the shipwreck of her patience.
Aye, and to him too, I believe, for by this time he hath spent the last dram of his news.
That is, of his wit.
Just good wittles.
If not, and that my lady be not too deep in her new dumps, we shall hear from his lordship what such a lord said of his wife the first night after you embraced her. To a gentleman such a count was beholding for his fine children, what young lady such an old count should marry, what revels, what presentments are towards, and who penned the pegmas, and so forth. And yet, for all this, I know her harsh suitor hath tired at the uttermost scruple of her hateful parents, and will do more, unless we two, like a pair of shears, cut asunder the thread of his discourse.
Well then, let's in. But, my masters, wait you on your charge at your perils. See that you guard our approach from any more intruders.
Excepting young Tharsalio.
Oh, true. Excepting him indeed. For a guard of men is not able to keep him out, and it please your honour.
Oh, wenches, that's the property of true valor, to promise like a pygmy and perform like a giant. If he come, I'll be sworn I'll do my lady's commandment upon him.
What? Beat him out?
If he should, Tharsalio would not take it ill at his hands, for he does taunt his lady's commandment.
Enter Tharsalio.
Well, by Hercules, he comes not here.
Oh, by Venus, but he does. Or else she hath heard by my lady's prayers and sent some gracious spirit in his likeness to fright away that Spartan wooer that haunts her.
There stand her sentinels.
Right, the ghost appears again.
Save ye, my quondam fellows in arms. Save ye, my women.
Your women, sir?
'Twill be so. What, no courtesies? No preparation of grace? Observe me. I advise you for your own sakes.
For your own sake, I advise you to pack hence, lest your impotent valour cost you dearer than you think.
What senseless boldness is this, Tharsalio?
Well said, Clinias. Talk to him.
I wonder that, notwithstanding the shame of your last entertainment, and threatenings of worse, you would yet presume to trouble this place again.
You're a widgeon. Off with your hat, sir. Acknowledge. Forecast is best than labour. You squint-eyed. Can you not see afore you? A little foresight, I can tell you, might stead you much, as the stars shine now.
'Tis well, sir. 'Tis not for nothing your brother is ashamed on you. But, sir, you must know we are charged to bar your entrance.
But, Whiffler, know you that whoso shall dare to execute that charge, I'll be his executioner.
By Jove, Clinias, methinks the gentleman speaks very honourably.
Well, I see this house needs reformation. Here's a fellow stands behind now of a forwarder insight than you all. What place hast thou?
What place you please, sir.
Nor you, sir. Here's a fellow to make a gentleman usher, sir. I discharge you of the place, and to invest thee into his room. Make much of thy hair, thy wit will suit it rarely. And for the full possession of thine office, come, usher me to thy lady, and keep thy hand supple. Take this from me.
No bribes, sir, an it please your worship.
Go to, thou dost well, but pocket it for all that. It's no impair to thee, the greatest do it.
Sir, 'tis your love only I respect, but since out of your love you please to bestow it upon me, it were want of courtship in me to refuse. I'll acquaint my lady with your coming.
Exit Argus.
Now say by this, have not I made a fit choice that hath so soon attained the deepest mystery of his profession? Good sooth, wenches, a few courtesies had not been cast away upon your new lord.
We'll believe that when our lady has a new son of your getting.
Enter Argus, Eudora, Rebus, Hiarbas, and Psorabeus.
What's the matter? Who's that you say is come?
The bold gentleman, an it please your honor.
Why, thou fleering ass, thou
An it please your honor.
did not I forbid his approach by order, charge, and duty of thy service?
Madam, this fellow only is intelligent, for he truly understood his command according to the style of the court of Venus. That is, by contraries. When you forbid, you bid.
By heaven, I'll discharge my house of Yule.
You shall not need, madam, for I've already cashiered your officious usher here, and choose this for his successor.
Oh, incredible boldness.
Madam, I come not to command your love with enforced letters, nor to woo you with tedious stories of my pedigree, as he who draws the thread of his descent from Laodice's distaff, when 'tis well known his grandsire cried coney skins in Sparta.
Who mean you, sir?
Sir, I name none but him who first shall name himself.
The place, sir, I tell you still, and this goddess's fair presence, or else my reply should take a far other form upon't.
If it should, sir, I would make your lordship an answer.
Answers Latin for a goose, an it please your honor.
Well noted, Gander. And what's of that?
Nothing, an it please your honor, but that he said he would make his lordship an answer.
Thus every fool mocks my poor suitor. Ah, tell me, thou most frontless of all men, didst thou, when thou hadst means to note me best, ever observe so base a temper in me as to give any glance at stooping to my vassal?
Your drudge, madam, to do your drudgery.
Or am I now so scant of worthy suitors that may advance mine honour, advance my estate, strengthen my alliance, if I list to wed, and that I must stoop to make my foot my head?
No, but your side to keep you warm abed. But, madam, vouchsafe me your patience to that point serious answer. Though I confess, to get higher place in your graces, I could wish my fortunes more honourable, my person more gracious, my mind more adorned with noble and heroical virtues. Yet, madam, that you think not your blood disparaged by mixture with mine, deign to know this. Howsoever, I once, only for your love, disguised myself in the service of your late lord and mine, yet my descent is as honourable as the proudest of your Spartan attempters, who, by unknown quills or conduits underground, draws his pedigree from Lycurgus, his great toe, to the viceroy's little finger, and from thence to his own elbow, where it will never be their chin.
'Tis well, sir. Presume still of the place?
Sfoot, madam, am I the first great personage that has stooped to disguises for love? What think you of our countryman Hercules, that for love put on Omphale's apron, and sat spinning amongst her wenches, while his mistress wore his lion's skin, and lamb-skinned him, if he did not his business?
Most fitly thou resemblest thyself to that violent outlaw that claimed all other men's possessions as his own by his mere value. For what less hast thou done? Come into my house? Beat away these honourable persons?
That I will, madam. Hence, ye Sparta velvets.
And beating them. Hold! She did not mean so.
Away, I say, or leave your lives, I protest, here.
Well, sir, his altitude shall know you.
I'll do your errand, sir.
Exeunt Rebus, Hiarbas, and Psorabeus.
Do, good cousin Altitude, and beg the reversion of the next lady. The Dido has betrothed her love to me. By this fair hand, madam, a fair riddance of this Caledonian boor.
Most prodigious audaciousness.
True, madam. Oh, fire upon 'em! They're intolerable. I cannot but admire your singular virtue of patience, not common in your sex, and must therefore carry with it some rare endowment of other masculine and heroical virtues. to hear a rude Spartan court so ingenuous a lady, with dull news from Athens or the Viceroy's court. How many dogs were spoiled at the last bull baiting? What ladies dubbed their husbands knights, and so forth?
But hast thou no shame, no sense of what disdain I showed thee in my last entertainment, chasing thee from my presence, and charging thy duty not to attempt the like intrusion for thy life? And darest thou yet approach me in this unmannerly manner? No question this desperate boldness cannot choose but go accompanied with other infinite rudenesses.
Good madam, give not the child an unfit name. Term it not boldness, which the sages call true confidence, founded on the most infallible rock of a woman's constancy.
If shame cannot restrain thee, tell me yet if any brainless fool would have tempted the danger attending thy approach.
No, madam, that proves I am no fool. Then, had I been here a fool and a base, low-spirited Spartan, if for a lady's frown, or a lord's threats, or for a guard of grooms, I should have shrunk in the wetting, and suffered such delicious flower to perish in the stalk, or to be savagely plucked by a profane finger. No, madam, first let me be made a subject for disgrace. Let your remorseless guard seal on my despised body, bind me hand and foot, and hurl me into your ladyship's bed.
Oh, gods! I protest thou dost more and more make me to admire thee.
Madam, ignorance is the mother of admiration. Know me better, and you'll admire me less.
Oh, what wouldst thou have me know? What seeks thy coming? Oh, why dost thou haunt me thus?
Only, madam, that the Etna of my sighs and Hylus of my tears, poured forth in your presence, might witness to your honour the hot and moist affection of my heart, and work me some measure of favour from your sweet tongue, or your sweeter lips, or what else your good ladyship will seem more conducible to your divine contentment.
Pen and inkhorn, I thank thee. Oh, this you learned when you were a serving man.
Madam, I am still the same creature, and I will so tie my whole fortunes to that style as, were it my happiness, as I know it will be, to mount into my lord's succession, yet vow I never to assume other title or state than your servants, not approaching your board but bidden, not pressing to your bed, but your pleasure shall be first known, if you will command me any service.
Oh, thy vows are as vain as a ruffian's oaths, as common as the air, and as cheap as the dust. How many of the light huswives, thy muses, have thy love promised this service besides, I pray thee?
Compare shadows to bodies, madam, pictures to the life, and such are they to you in my valuation.
I see words will never free me of thy boldness, and will therefore now use blows, and those are the mortalist enforcement. Let it suffice, sir, that all this time and to this place you enjoy your safety. Keep back. No one foot follow me further, for I protest to thee the next threshold past. Let's pass a prepared ambush to thy latest breath.
Exit Eudora.
This year ambush.
He draws.
Dare my love with death.
Exit Tharsalio.
Light! Follow, and it please your honour.
Not I by this light.
I hope, gentlewomen, you will.
Not we, sir. We are no partners of phrase.
Faith, nor I'll be any breaker of customs.
And exit. And end of Act 2. Well, who wants to leap in on this one? I'll go to Lynn first, then Greg, then Aliki.
Yeah, this is actually just a lexical point. There's been some meaning shift of the word admire. In this period, it didn't have a positive valence. I mean, now when we admire someone, we look up to them. We think they're admirable. Yeah. To admire meant to be astonished, not or shocked. It didn't have a particularly positive valence at all in this period. So when she says, "You're making me admire you," it's just like, "You're shocking me." It's not in a positive way at all.
Mm. Greg, and then Leaky, then Alan.
Oh my God, Tharsalio's still got fiber diarrhea.
Yes.
I actually have to say, I admire Eudora in that scene. She's actually, no, she did sound like she went one way, then went the other at the end, but it's an interesting, she seems to have fallen for this gobshite. Sorry.
No, I think that's a fair term. I think we've got worse. We're storing them up. There's a little box.
Oh, we are. By the end of this, I am sure poor Eudora will not be a happy lady. But no, it's just it was a great little scene. But as ever, as we've said before, my God, and Eudora said it herself. I can't remember what the line was. I put it in the chat about getting rid of people or something. Discharge us, whatever. And I went, yeah, please, just get rid of a few people, get rid of a few characters. That's fine.
Well, structurally, the scene starts with this big sort of setup where they have this debate and they're waiting for Tharsalio to inevitably gate crash, and it's like, we can't keep this bugger out whatever we do. So a lot of which where I was going, is this journey really necessary? Do we really need a lot of this scene? Not really. Then he bursts in. But it's the violence of everything he's doing. You know, he's drawing swords, he's beating people out of the room. You know, there's a lot going on here, which we're going, oh, this is a comedy. Aliki, then Alan, then Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is disguised by all of this verbiage, which, you know, the plot to lines ratio in this scene is not encouraging. And it would be great if we were enjoying the lines, but since a lot of the jokes are either over our heads or really misogynist or both, it's there's
so much dialogue here just that keeps coming at us, and it's like you can make. I mean, it was partly just going, what is this scene doing that is new to what we had in the previous act?
Exactly. As far as I can tell, all that's happened is he's gotten in to see her and maybe made some progress, and then a duel which was previously threatened is now going to happen. Right? That's about it.
Yeah, it's like nothing's happening at any great speed. Alan, then Lynn, then Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm putting out a warrant for Chapman's arrest for willful murder of English syntax, because some of those speeches were an absolute nightmare to work out where the thoughts began and end. There were so many subclauses and parentheses and God knows what. Unless Tharsalio is just supposed to be talking on the basis that will A, stop anyone else talking, and B, stop him maybe thinking.
Lynn.
I can't actually find the line, but there's something in here. I can't remember who says it about, oh, you know, no means yes. And there is nothing quite like that mentality to send me into a blind feminist rage. So I cannot actually analyze this with a clear head because it's to make me so angry. Yeah,
and
but
it's not the first time that sentiment's appeared in this text either.
The syntax doesn't make it any easier. And I have to disagree with Greg. I don't think she goes one way or another. I think it's no all along. I mean, the word admire doesn't mean what it means, didn't mean then what it means now. I don't think she's ever like, ooh, you're interesting. I would not read the scene that way. That's just my take.
Especially the violence that he's either implied violence or actual on-stage violence, you know, that's going on here. He's crashing. He keeps turning up. He won't go away. Even for the period where a certain level of persistence is kind of expected. Nobody thinks this guy is a good guy. Everybody thinks he is a gobshite, to quote Greg's elegant phrasing. Sarah.
Yeah, I know it's not as if we don't have a lot of misogyny in early modern comedies, because clearly we do. But there's something about the tone of this, and I don't know if it's because it's married with what Aliki was talking about earlier about the fact that actually a lot of the jokes are just going over our heads or going over my heads, or we just don't like them because they're so misogynistic. And I don't know if it's that in combination with the violence that you were just talking about, but this play does not have the vibe of a comedy. Usually, even if the jokes are a bit lame or a bit distasteful to us in the modern age, there's a sort of there's a vibe. I'm trying to think of a proper sort of useful word to use here, but there's like a sort of atmosphere. There's a bounce to comedies that this does not have. This has really got the atmosphere of a tragedy, and like it could so easily be one. I'm assuming it's not, but it's like this could, like, I'm almost waiting every scene for something to go horribly wrong and someone to get, some innocent to get slaughtered, because it's just got that tone.
Well, here's the question. If it is a comedy, then at various stages you can identify and go, right, this is the joke. This is the joke of this line of dialogue. This is the joke of this exchange. This is the joke of the scene. This is the joke of the play. What's the joke? And I haven't identified an actual comedic setup yet. There's a character, we thought Rebus was moderately amusing last session, that he had a few backs and forth that you might be able to make it feel a bit lighthearted. But this isn't. It's a not very helpful debate about widows and their sexual appetites. And that's it. I don't know what else there is to this text if we treat it as a comedy. And I know comedy doesn't automatically mean humour and laughter all the way through, but like as Sarah was saying, there's sort of a buoyancy that you're expecting. But the closest this feels to is one of the darker satires of Marston. But at least when Marston does satire, he also does jokes.
Yeah, he does wit. I mean, you might not. It might be a bit savage for some taste, mine quite often. But it is.
But you can identify the concept.
Exactly, it's cruel, but it's witty. This is not witty.
No, they're just saying stuff. Lynn.
Yeah, this will be the last thing I say at this juncture. I think I promise. Emma Smith of no less than Oxford says that comedy is a structure, not a mood. So, there's that. And the only really good example I can think of that is verboten. But Marston did jump to mind. The Malcontent is a comedy, turns out. But you wouldn't necessarily know that until the very last scene. But there's something actually kind of exuberant about the Malcontent that doesn't show up.
Well, it's funny.
Here. There's almost always characters you admire in early modern plays. They just aren't. Eudora so far, but I have a feeling she's gonna let us down so bad.
Again, is Eudora particularly interesting? That's sort of my disappointment with Eudora. Is like there should be some fire, and it's just like she's just going, oh God. Which is perfectly legitimate character choice, to be fair, of just going, oh, fuck my life. But it's not inherently dramatic. Anyway, we need to move on. We've got a lot of text to get through. But I think, we've 2 scenes for Act 3. So let's start with Act 3, Scene 1. It's traditional to do it that way around. Enter Lysander and Lycus, booted.
Would any art advandament for satisfaction of the grounded humour poor lady's innocence as you intend to do? It was a strange curiosity in that emperor that ripped his mother's womb to see the place he lay in.
Come, do not load me with volumes of persuasion. I am resolved. If she be gold, she may abide the test. Let's away. I wonder where this wild brother is.
Enter Cynthia, Hylus, and Ero.
Sir.
I pray thee, wife, show thyself a woman and be silent. Question no more the reason of my journey, which our great viceroy charged, urged in this letter, doth enforce me to.
Let me but see that letter. There is something in this presaging blood of mine tells me this sudden journey can portend no good. Resolve me, sweet. Have not I given you cause of discontent by some misprision, or want of fit observance? Let me know, that I may wreak myself upon myself.
Come, wife, our love is now grown old and staid, and must not wanton in its tricks of court, nor interchange delights of melting lovers, hanging on sleeves, sighing, loath to depart. These toys are past with us. Our true love's substance has worn out all the show. Let it suffice, I hold thee dear, and think some cause of weight, with no excuse to be dispelled withal, compels me from thy most desired embraces. I shall but for my I stay but for my brother. Came he not in last night?
For certain no, sir, which gave us cause of wonder what accident kept him abroad.
Pray heaven it prove not some wild resolution, bred in him by his second repulse from the Countess.
Trust me, I something fear it, this insatiate spirit of aspiring being so dangerous and fatal. Desire, mounted on the wings of it, descends not but headlong.
Enter Tharsalio, cloaked.
Sir, here's my uncle.
What, wrapped in a careless cloak, face hid in hat unhanded? These are the ditches, brother, in which outraging colts plunge both themselves and their riders.
Well, we must get out as well as we may. If not, there's the making of a grave saved.
That's desperately spoken, brother. Had it not been happier, the colt had been better broken, and his rider not fallen in.
No, true, sister, but we must ride colts before we can break them, you know.
This is your blind goddess confidence.
Alas, brother, our house is decayed, and my honest ambition to restore it, I hope be pardoned. My comfort is, the poet that pens the story well will write over my head Magnus Tamen exceeded Holsis, which, in our native idiom, that you know, his mind was high, though fortune was his foe.
Oh, a good resolve, brother, to outjest disgrace. Come, I had been on my journey but for some private speech with you. Let's in.
Good, brother, stay a little. Help out this ragged colt out of the ditch.
He uncloaks and reveals a splendid suit.
How now?
Now I confess my oversight. This have I purchased by my confidence.
I like you, brother. 'Tis the true garb, you know. What once in real worth supply and show.
In show? Alas, 'twas even the thing itself. I oped my counting house and took away these simple fragments of my treasury. Husband, my countess cried, take more yet. Yet I, in haste to pay and part my debt, and prove myself a husband of her store, kissed and came off, and this time took no more.
But, good brother,
Then were our honoured spousal rites performed. We made all short and sweet and close and sure.
He's rapt.
Then did my ushers and chief servants stoop. Then made my women curtsies and envied their lady's fortune. I was magnified.
Let him alone. This spirit will soon vanish.
Brother and sister, as I love you, and am a true servant to Venus, all the premises are serious and true, and the conclusion is, great countess is mine. The palace is at your service, to which I invite you all to solemnize my honoured nuptials.
Can this be credited?
Good brother, do not you envy my fortunate achievement?
Nay, I ever said the attempt was commendable.
Good.
If the issue were successful.
A good state conclusion. Happy events make good the worst attempts. Here are your widow vows, sister. Thus are ye all in your pure naturals, certain moral disguises of coyness, which the ignorant call modesty. Ye borrow of art to cover your busk points, which a blunt and resolute encounter, taken under a fortunate aspect, easily disarms you of. And then, alas, what are you? Poor naked sinners. weak paper walls thrust down with a finger. This is the way on it. Boil their appetites to a full height of lust, and then take them down in the neck.
But let me wonder at this frailty yet. Would she,
Eh?
in so short time, wear out his
Have we not just...
I'm skipped ahead.
We've
Sorry.
jumped, yes.
Okay, I couldn't really hear Alan's line.
Oh.
So where are we?
And then take them down in the neck.
Okay.
And
Cynthia next, yeah. Was it?
Is there... Is there probability in this that a lady so great, so virtuous, standing on so high terms of honour, should so soon stoop?
you would not wonder, sister, if you knew the lure she stooped at. Greatness. Think that can curb affection. No, it wets it more. They have the full stream of blood to bear them, the sweet gale of their sublime spirits to drive them, the calm of ease to prepare them, the sunshine of fortune to allure them, greatness to waft them safe through all rocks of infamy. When youth, wit, and person come aboard once, tell me, sister, can you choose but hoise sail and put forward to the main?
But let me wonder at this frailty yet. Would she, in so short a time, wear out his memory, so soon wipe from her eyes, nay, from her heart, whom I myself and this whole isle besides still remember with grief, the impression of his loss, taking worthily such root in us? How think you, wife?
I am ashamed on't, and abhor to think so great and vowed a pattern of our sex should take into her thoughts, nay, to her bed, staid to womanhood, a second love.
In so short time.
In any time.
No, wife?
By Juno, no. Sooner a loathsome toad.
My words, believe me, and I think she'll keep them. Next turn is yours, nephew. You shall now marry my noblest lady daughter. The first marriage in Paphos, next my nuptials, shall be yours. These are strange occurrences, brother, but pretty and pathetical. If you see me in my chair of honour, and my countess in mine arms, you will then believe, I hope, I am lord of the palace. Then shall you try my great lady's entertainment, see your hands freed of me, and mine taking you to advancement.
Well, all this writ's not my business. Wife, you shall be there to partake the unexpected honour of our house. Lycus and I will make it our recreation, by the way, to think of your revels and nuptial sports. Brother, my stay hath been for you. Wife, prithee be gone, and soon prepare for the solemnity. A month returns me.
Sorry, I just muted myself instead of unmuting myself. Heavens guide your journey.
Farewell.
Farewell, nephew. Prosper in virility, but do you hear? Keep your hand from your voice. Have a part for you in our hymeneal show.
You speak too late for my voice, but I'll discharge the part.
Exit Cynthia, Hylus, and Arrow.
Occurrence call ye them. Foul shame confound them all. That impregnable fort of chastity and loyalty, that amazement of the world. Oh, ye deities, could nothing restrain her? I took her spirit to be too haughty for such a depression.
But who commonly more short-heeled than they which are high in the inset?
Methinks yet shame should have controlled so sudden an appetite.
Shame doth extinguish lust as oil doth fire. The blood, once hot, shame doth inflame more. What they before by art dissembled most, they act more freely. Shame once found is lost. To say truth, brother, what shame is due to it? Or what congress doth it carry that a young lady, gallant, vigorous, full of spirit and complexion, her appetite new whetted with nuptial delights, to be confined to the speculation of a said, or for the loss of a husband, the world affording flesh enough to make the noontide of her years the sunset of her pleasures?
And yet there have been such women.
Of the first stamp, perhaps, when the metal was purer than in these degenerate days. of latter years, much of that coin hath been counterfeit. Besides, so cracked and worn with use, that they are grown light, and indeed fit for nothing but be turned over in play.
Not all. Not all. Excuse me, not all, brother.
My matchless sister only accepted, for she, you know, is made of another metal than that she borrowed of her mother. But do you, brother, sadly intend the pursuit of this trial?
Irrevocably.
It is a high project, if it be once raised. Earth is too weak to bear so weighty an accident. It cannot be conjured down again without an earthquake. Therefore believe she will be constant.
No,
No,
I will not. Oh, sorry.
No, I will not.
Then believe she will not be constant.
Neither. I will believe nothing but what trial enforces. Will you hold your promise for the governing of this project with skill and secrecy?
If it must needs be so. But hark you, brother, have you no capriccions in your head to entrap my sister in her frailty, but to prove the firmness of her widow vows after your supposed death?
None in the world.
Then here's my hand. I'll be as close as I'll let my lady's shoe to her foot, that pinches and pleases her, and will bear on with the plot till the vessel split again.
Forge any death so you can force belief. Say I was poisoned, drowned.
And?
Anything. So you assist it with likely circumstances. I need not instruct you. That must be your employment. Lycus?
Well, sir.
But, brother, you must set in, too, to countenance truth out. A thirst there must be, too. It's strange to think how much the eye prevails in such impressions. I have marked a widow that just before was seen pleasant enough to follow an empty hearse and weep devoutly.
All those things leave to me.
But, brother, for the bestowing of this hearse in the monument of our family and the marshalling of a funeral...
That to my care. And if I do not do the mourner as lively as your heir, and weep as lustily as your widow, say there's no virtue in onions. That being done, I'll come to visit the distressed widow, apply old ends of comfort to her grief. But the burden of my song shall be to tell her words are but dead comforts, and therefore counsel her to take a living comfort that might ferret out the thought of her dead husband, and will come prepared with choice of suitors, either my Spartan lord for grace at the viceroy's court, nor some great lawyer that may solder up her cracked estate, and so forth. But what would you say, brother, if you'd find her married at your arrival?
By this hand, split her weasand.
Well, forget not your wager. A stately chariot with 4 brave horses of Thracian breed, with all appurtenances. I'll prepare the like for you, if you prove victor. But well remembered, where will you lurk the while?
Mute up close some short day's journey hence. Lycus shall know the place. Write still how all things pass. Brother, adieu. All joy attend you.
Will not you stay our nuptial now so near?
I should be like a man that hears a tale and heeds it not, one absent from himself. My wife shall attend the countess and my son.
Whom you shall hear at your return call me father. Adieu, Joe be for your speed. My nuptials done, your funeral succeed.
And they exit after so many words. Yeah, so they're moving that plot line forward. It's starting to, we were saying, at the end of the last scene, he wasn't successful, and she was saying that. I'm starting to get the impression that maybe that's not how the last scene ended. So yeah. Anyway, Lynn and Aliki.
I think Tharsalio's lying. I think he's saying the countess agreed to marry me to further weaken his sister-in-law's resolve with the countess's example.
Aliki.
Well, possibly. The only thing that I can think of that's making me able to tolerate this, is that Tharsalio is a pickup artist, and he's black-pilled his brother.
Yeah. No, this is actually what the way I'm viewing the whole text is that it is that this is what happens when toxic masculinity goes running, and that this is a horrible cautionary tale. And if we have to tweak the final ending of the play to make that it fit that thesis, I have no problems with that, because I say, for all the awfulness of this is a depressingly relevant text, and that there's something that can be done with that. And because the question of where the plot is currently going, because there's a part of me that's going, well, if Tharsalio is just deluding himself that he is being a terribly successful man, that is one thing. If he is successful now with the widow, then there's a whole other element to this plot line that we can take somewhere, especially when we're talking about the violence and the aggression of the previous scene. Because when a guy runs off after her with a sword, there's a whole implication to what's going on there that may not actually be precisely what the text was actually pointing us in the direction of, but you know what? It starts feeling a bit terrible there. Feels not like comedy. Sarah.
Yeah, surely that is the end. That is the point of that violence at the end of the scene. The fact that he runs off after her. I mean, I've taken this as meaning that he has what he's saying is true, and that it's probably come about for not quite the reasons he's suggesting, but because he's chased her down with a sword and raped her, and so she's just now like, well, I suppose I have to marry you. I mean, it might not be the case, but it does fit with the general tone of the play, and I'm not buying this thing that it's all pie in the sky and it's not real. I mean, there's been nothing in this play so far to suggest that kind of whimsical, ridiculous, silly plot line would suddenly come along at this particular stage. There's been nothing light or whimsical about this play at all, and him turning up in his suit of clothes as well. When he whipped his cloak off and showed off his suit, I actually felt a little bit sick, and I think that's kind of, I think that's where you want to take a modern audience with this play.
I mean, and for those watching at home, anyone who's sort of maybe read a bit about this play or read it on paper, the fact that we're not sure what's going on is part of the exercise that we're doing here. That we are reading a play at pace, and we are trying to take in what the play is giving us moment by moment, and some of us are not fully paying attention. I'm not always fully paying attention.
We haven't read
to what's
ahead
going on.
either.
We haven't read ahead, so we don't know where it's going. And Chapman's dialogue is so opaque sometimes that the genuine question of do we know what's actually happening in this play is leaping up at us. And because we don't have, for example, Lois in the room, who will know exactly what's going on in the play. Which sometimes defeats this exercise of us going, I don't know what's going on, because someone actually does know what's going on. That's where we later on, second looks further on, we're more bedded in and we can actually, we go in with a little bit more knowledge. But this is actually a really useful exercise for this play, because it's like, do we know what's going on? Oh, this is what's going on. And that's actually part of an audience response to a degree of just going, where is this play going? What is this play doing? We're probably near the interval, and it's like, what are you sending people out into an interval thinking? Are they coming back for the second half? Lynn.
And something else I just noticed to kind of support Sarah's thesis or something like it, which I don't want to, is that the last scene where he announces that he and the Countess are in fact engaged is the first scene of a new act in the indoor play 5-act structure. So there's been a little mini break to give us a sense of time passing.
Yes, so, and there really is that sense in that dialogue. Yeah.
So that's a place where something like that would typically happen.
Yes, there is clearly a slight time jump there. Or what's he? Have you heard about his rejection the last time? Etc. They're using those intervals as little breaks to let people sort of settle in. And of course, we've got Lysander being being drawn into this whole world here, which we haven't talked about at any great length, because it was an incredibly tedious scene. So, Sarah.
Yes, I actually think, assuming that this trip of his, this letter is made up, and this trip of his is him going off to test his wife.
Yeah.
This whole plot would make a lot more sense if it actually came after this scene, with Tharsalio turning up with his trendy new clothes and saying, I did it. Because I mean, I was saying yesterday that, like, for a man who seems as sensible and as happily married as Lysander, it seemed odd that he would suddenly start to let this poisonous infection of misogyny in. If he hasn't let it in so far, they're brothers, why would he suddenly start to fall prey to it now? And actually, if that whole plot line started after this scene, where Tharsalio turns up and says, "Hey, look, I've actually done it. I'm marrying the Countess," and Lysander actually sees this and goes, "Oh, fuck, that means women aren't as constant as I thought they were. I wonder if my wife would do the same, blah, blah, blah." Actually, that would make a lot more sense psychologically. And I'm wondering, I mean, it will depend on how the play turns out, but I'm wondering if there would be a way to shunt that whole plot line down, or to, because, let's face it, a lot of this could be cut, to actually make his success with the Countess come earlier in the play, so that you've then got time to unwrap this other plot line in a more psychologically cohesive way. Because, to be honest, I know we don't often bother about the psychology in early modern plays, but frankly, the psychology is pretty much all this play has got going for it so far. So I think, I at least would want to lean into it if I was mounting a production of this, which I probably wouldn't.
Okay, yeah, it's going to fall on Muggins here, isn't it? When that wheel spins and we've got to do a production of this, who's going to do it? And everybody takes a step backwards as I'm left standing there. That's how the system works. Anyway, we must move on. So hold on to that thought, Alan. Act 3, Scene 2. Enter Argus barehead.
A hall, who's without there?
Enter 2 or 3 with cushions.
Come on, you're proper grooms, are you not? Slight, I think you're all bridegrooms. You take your pleasures so. A company of dormice. Their honors are upon coming. The room is not ready. Rushes and seats instantly.
Enter Tharsalio.
Now, my last fellow Argus, how thou art cumbered with an office.
Perfume, sirrah, the room's dampish.
Nay, you may leave that office to the ladies. They'll perfume it sufficiently.
Cry you mercy, sir. Here's a whole chorus of Sylvans at hand, commenting and tripping on the toe as the ground they trod on were too hot for their feet. The device is rare, and there's your young nephew, too. He hangs in the clouds, deified with Hymen's shape.
Is he perfect in his part? Has not his tongue learned of the Sylvans to trip at the toe?
Sir, believe it, he does it preciously for accent and action, as if he felt the part he played. He ravishes all the young wenches in the palace. Pray, Venus, my young lady Laodice, have not some little prick of Cupid in her, she's so diligent at rehearsals.
No force, so my next vows be heard, but if Cupid have pricked her, Hymen may cure her.
You mean your nephew, sir, that presents Hymen?
Why so? I can speak nothing. Thou art within me. Fire this wit of thine, 'twill be thy destruction. But howsoever you please to understand, Hymen sends the boy no worse fortune. And where's my lady's honour?
At hand, sir, with your unparagoned sister. Please you take your chair of honour, sir.
Most serviceable Argus, the gods reward the service. I will not.
Enter Eudora leading Cynthia and all the others, with others additionally following.
Come, sister, now we must exchange that name for stranger titles. Let's dispose ourselves to entertain these silver-hand revellers that come to grace our loved nuptials. I fear me we must all turn nymphs tonight, to side those sprightly wood gods in their dances. Can you do it nimbly, sister? Sight, what ails you? Are you not well?
Yes, madam.
But your looks, methinks, are cloudy, suiting ill the sunshine of this clear honour to your husband's house. Is there aught here that suits not with your liking?
I blame her not, mistress. Her looks show care. Excuse the merchant's sadness that hath made a doubtful venture of his whole estate, his livelihood, his hopes, in one poor bottom, to all account of the seas and storms. Had you a husband that you loved as well, would you not take his absent flight as ill? Cavil at every fancy, not an object that could present itself, but it would forge some vain objection that did doubt his safety. True love is ever full of jealousy.
Jealous? Of what? Of every little journey? Mere fancy, then, is wanton, and doth cast at those slight dangers there two doting glances. Misgiving minds ever provoke mischances. Shines not the sun in his way bright as here? Is not the air as good? What hazard, doubt you?
His horse may stumble, if it please your honour. The rain may wet, the wind may blow on him. Many shrewd hazards watch poor travellers.
True, and the shrewdest thou hast reckoned us. Good sister, these cares fit younger married wives.
Wives should still be young in their husbands' loves. Time bears no scythe, should bear down them before him. Our lives he may cut short, but not our loves.
Sister, be wise, and ship not in one bark all your ability. If he miscarry, your well-tried wisdom should look out for new.
I wish them happy winds that run that course. From me, 'tis far. One temple sealed our troth, one tomb, one hour shall end and shroud us both.
Well, ye are a phoenix there, be that your cheer. Love with your husband, be your wisdom here. Our sport's challenging. Sit, dearest mistress.
Take your place, worthiest servant.
Serve me, heaven,
Music.
as I my heavenly mistress. Sit, rare sister.
Music. Hymen descends, Hylus disguised, and 6 Silvians enter beneath with torches.
A hall, a hall! Let no more citizens in there.
Oh, not my cousin, see, but Hymen's self.
He does become it most inflamingly.
Hail, honoured bridegroom and his princely bride, with the most famed for virtue, Cynthia, and this young lady, bright Laodice, one rich hope of this noblest family.
Hark how he courts! He's enamoured too.
Oh, granted Venus, and be ever honoured.
In grace and love of you, I, Hymen, searched the groves and thickets that embrace this palace with this clear-flamed and good-aboding torch for summons of these fresh and flowery sylvans to this fair presence with their winding haze, active and antic dances, to delight your frolic eyes and help to celebrate these noblest nuptials, which great destiny ordained past custom and all vulgar object to be the re-advancement of a house noble and princely, and restore this palace to that name that 600 summers since was in possession of this bridegroom's ancestors, the ancient and most virtue-famed Lysandri. Sylvans, the courtship you make to your dryads, use to this great bride and these other dames, and heighten with your sports my nuptial flames.
Oh, would himself descend and me command.
Dance, and his art catch in another's hand.
Sylvans take out the bride and the rest. They dance. After which, and all set in their places, Hymen speaks.
Now, whate'er power my torches' influence hath, in the blessing of your nuptial joys, great bride and bridegroom, you shall amply part betwixt your free loves, and forego it never.
Thanks to great Hymen, and fair Sylvans ever.
And excellent end of the act. So, yeah.
So there's a little bit of plot reveal that's just been sitting there for, what, 4 acts? 3 acts?
3 acts.
3 acts. The whole point is they used to be rulers there, and now they want to be again.
It's sort of been bubbling along in the
Has it?
background.
Okay, I hadn't noticed.
It's not completely divorced, but because, shall we say, the prose and verse style of Chapman has meant that every time they mention it, I'm sort of going, I know there's something I'm supposed to understand here, but I don't know what it is. So, yeah. Anyway, marriage, mask, stuff. Alan.
Yeah, I think in that it's not marked as such in the script, but I think Sthenia is actually making sarky comments aside.
Oh yeah. Basically, there's only really one performing voice in that sequence, and everybody else is doing responses and stuff. Sarah.
Can I just say, I really like, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, whoever it is I'm playing, Sthenia.
Yeah.
She's a really good, stout comedy servant character, but the thing that occurs to me about her is that she just seems to have wandered in out of another play.
Yeah. Oh, hark how he courts. He's enamored too. Yeah, that's like, oh, a character I like. Can't be from this play.
And that line about, oh yeah, start dancing and then he'll look elsewhere kind of thing. I mean, she's a really deadpan, but like just in totally the wrong play. Like it's just the tone of it is quite grating because it's just doesn't seem to sit right.
Yeah, but also this whole sequence, you're sort of going, yeah. Some stuff happened. Okay. Right. Let's go into Act 4. Let's see how that goes. Interval break, mini break. This is, I suppose, we have a production number to close the first half with, so there we go. Act 4, Scene 1. Tharsalio and Lycus with his arm in a scarf, a nightcap on's head.
I hope, sir, by this time...
Put on, man, by ourselves.
The edge of your confidence is well taken off. Would you not be content to withdraw your wager?
Brave fellow Lycus, if my wager were wiltly built, this unexpected accident might stagger it. The truth is, this strain is extraordinary. To follow her husband's body into the tomb, and there for his company to bury herself quick. It's new and stirring, but for all this, I'll not despair of my wager.
Why, sir, can you think such a passion dissembled?
All's one for that. What I think. In the meantime, forget not to write to my brother how the plot has succeeded, that the news of his death had taken, a funeral solemnity performed, his supposed course bestowed in the monument of our family, thou and I honourable mourners. But above all, that his intolerable virtuous widow, for his love and for her love, Hero, her handmaid, are descended with his corse into the vault. There wipe their eyes time out of mind, drink nothing but their own tears, and by this time are almost dead with famine. There's a point will sting it, for you say 'tis true. Where left you him?
At Dipolis, sir, some 20 miles hence.
He keeps close?
Aye, sir, by all means. Skulks unknown under the name of a strange knight.
That may carry him without descrying, for there's a number of strange knights abroad. You left him well?
Oh, well, sir, but for his jealous humour that haunts him.
Well, this news will absolutely purge that humour. Right all, forget not to describe her passion at the discovery of this slaughter. Did she perform it well for her husband's wager?
Perform it, call you it? You may jest. Men hunt hares to death for their sports, but the poor beasts die in earnest. Your wager of her passions for your pleasure, but she takes little pleasure in those earnest passions. I never saw such an ecstasy of sorrow since I knew the name of sorrow. Her hands flew up to her head like furies. Ah! In all her beauties in her dishevelled hair. wept till she would turn fountain. Would you and her husband have been behind the arras but to have heard her? I assure you, sir, I was so transported with the spectacle that in despite of my discretion, I was forced to turn woman and bear a part with her. Humanity broke loose from my heart and streamed through mine eyes.
In prose thou wepst. So have I seen many moist auditor do at a play, when the story was but a mere fiction. And didst act the Nuntius well? Would I had heard it. Couldst thou dress thy looks in a mournful habit?
Not without preparation, sir. No more than my speech. It was a plain acting of interlude to me to pronounce the part.
As how, for heaven's sake?
Phoebus addressed his chariot towards the west to change his wearied courses, and so forth.
Nay, on, and thou lovest me.
Lysander and myself beguiled the way with interchange of discourse, but our chief theme was of your dearest self, his honoured wife, your love, your virtue, wondrous constancy.
Then was a cue to whimper. On?
When suddenly appeared as far as sight a troop of horse, armed as we might discern, with javelins, spears, and such accoutrements. He doubted naught as innocence he ever is free from doubting ill.
There dropped a tear.
My mind misgave me. They might be mountaineers. At their approach they used no other language but their weapons to tell us what they were. Lysander drew and bore himself Achilles-like in fight. And as a mower sweeps off the heads of bent, so did Lysander's sword shave off the points of their assaulting lances. His horse at last, sore hurt, fell under him. I, seeing I could not rescue, used my spurs to fly away.
What, from thy friend?
I had a good quarrel, why not?
Good, I'm answered.
A lance pursued me, brought me back again, with his wounds left me to accompany dying Lysander. Then they rifled us and left us. Then gone, my breath could not yet gone, gan to strive and revive sense. I, with my feeble joints, crawled to Lysander, stirred him, and with all he gasped and cried, Cynthia! And breathed no more.
Oh, then she howled outright.
Passengers came, and in a chariot brought us straight to a neighbour town, where I forthwith coffined my friend in lead, and so conveyed him to this sad place.
'Twas well, and could not show but strangely.
Well, sir, this tale pronounced for terror suited with action clothes in such likely circumstance, my words and show her husband's her, since I think what effect it wrought. If you doubt, let the sad consequence of her retreat to his tomb be your woeful instructor.
For all this, I'll not despair of my wager. These griefs that sound so loud prove always light. True sorrow evermore keeps out of sight. This strain of mourning within sepulchre, like an overdoing actor, affects grossly, and is indeed so far forced from the life that it bewrays itself to be altogether artificial. To set open a shop of mourning, 'tis palpable truth. The substance hunts not after the shadow of popular fame. Her officious ostentation of sorrow condemns her sincerity. When did ever women mourn so unmeasurably? But did she dissemble?
Oh, God's a passion thus born, thus apparelled with tears, sighs, swoonings, and all the badges of true sorrow, to be dissembled. By Venus, I am sorry I ever set foot in it. Could she, if she dissembled, thus dally with hunger, be deaf to the barking of her appetite, not having these 4 days relieved nature with one dram of sustenance?
For this does she look to be deified, to have hymns made of her, nay, to her, the tomb where she is to be no more reputed the ancient monument of our family, the Lysandri, a newly erected altar of Cynthia, to which all the Paphian widows shall after their husbands' funerals offer their wet Macinders for monuments of the danger they have passed, as seamen do their wet garments at Neptune's temple after shipwreck.
Yeah, well, I'll apprehend you at your pleasure. I, for my part, will say that if her faith be as constant as her love is hearty and unaffected, her virtues may justly challenge a deity to enshrine them.
Ah, there's another point too. But one of those virtues is enough at once. All natures are not capable of all gifts. The brain of the wise were in the heads of the learned. Then might parish clerks be common councilmen, and poets aldermen's deputies. My sister may turn Niobe for love, but till Niobe be turned to a marvel, I'll not despair, but she may prove a woman. Let the trial run on. If she do not outrun it, I'll say poets are no prophets, prognosticators are but mountebanks, and none tell true but woodmongers.
Exit Tharsalio.
A sweet gentleman you are. And mother, what man, what woman, what name, what action doth his tongue glide over, that it leaves us a slime upon it? Well, I'll presently to dip this where Lysander stays, and will not say what she may prove frail. But this I'll say, if she should chance to break, her tears are true, though women's truths are weak.
Exit Lycus. Okay, end of scene. So, structurally, this is quite interesting. In terms of the way you're framing it, if you're putting in an interval, that feels like a very good place to begin a second half. Time has moved on, and it gives the opportunity for the actor of Lycus to do big storytelling. This is how I told her. This is what I'd said about the death of the guy, and it has the potential to be very effective. Again, it does feel like Chapman is his own worst enemy. I absolutely think that the shape of this, on paper works. Whether it does or not, I am less certain. But yeah, I understand what is happening here, and that is that there is too much stuff as well. Greg, then Sarah.
I was just going to say, interestingly, with all discussion about breaks in the play, actually, that almost felt like it should be the break there because of the title repeat, Widow's Tears. But anyway, or was it? Yeah, Her Tears Are True. It's not repeats the title, but it at least repeats the subject title. I love Lycus. I love that whole description of what happened. It's just in the wrong play. It could have been a really glorious moment. It could be a really glorious moment in another play, and I'm sure there's plays where we get a really crappy description, and we could do a bit of reworking. It would come in beautifully, but it felt like it was in the wrong play.
It's interesting because it does feel like there's maybe a gear shift here as to what the player's sort of done with the other plot line, and maybe this is the plot line it's going to follow a lot. Of course, it doesn't mean that you're going to get less Tharsalio wittering on, but he's wittering on about something else instead. Sarah, then Alan.
I know from an early modern perspective, the whole point of this plot is Lysander and how he's feeling and what he's thinking, and he's the one that matters. But I'm feeling very, very cheated by not having a scene where we get the news of his death being relayed to Cynthia. Because this whole thing is a test of her. This whole stupid idea that he's come up with, or his brother's come up with, and he's going along with. And so therefore, I really want to see that. I really want to see that news break. And I think maybe one of the reasons we don't see it break is because this is meant to be a comedy, and it is going to absolutely just slay her emotionally, discovering that her husband's dead, especially after, she had these presentiments, which of course people always do have. But and maybe that's why he decided not to put that in. I mean, time does leap forward. The plot isn't hanging around. And yes, you could say there's a virtue in that. But actually, I really want that scene because I feel if this whole thing is going to hang on her being tested, then she deserves some kind of, like, scene where we see her response and we see what's happening and we see the genuine grief that she's clearly going to suffer.
Yes, Alan, then Aliki.
Yeah, I think I agree with Greg. It feels like Lycus's speech there has walked in from somewhere else, or the actor playing Lycus had effectively said, "Oi, mate, I need some decent chunky bits of text," because it doesn't feel to be of a piece with the rest of it. Yeah, I mean,
I don't feel the disjoint at all. It seems very much of a piece. It seems like it's fitting with Lycus's character earlier. It's doing a set piece moment. It's not fundamentally different in tone or shape. It is just it's the beginning of a different act, and it's doing a slightly different thing. Aliki.
Yeah, I just want to say pretty much what I said in the chat, which is that yes, the plot is moving along, but it's not really moving along much in the scenes. It moves along in between scenes and then tells us, oh, by the way, this happened at some length.
Yeah, we don't see the successful wooing of Eudora. We don't really see that. It happens off. We don't see it. We're constantly. I put in the chat. It's almost Jacobian in the sense that nothing really happens during the scenes. You're always relating to what's the difference between the last time you saw the characters, and that's sort of the journey you're having. But that's in a play with very minimal plot. And this has, a conventional plot. So doing it this way is quite interesting. Lynn.
Yeah, I sort of agree with the people that too much takes place off stage. And Chekhov had the excuse that he wrote for a unit set. So you have to have a lot of action related because you never leave the drawing room or whatever. And this takes place in different locations, so there's no reason like that. There's not a reason like that to have important moments related rather than told rather than shown. The only function, I don't know, I'm not usually optimistic, but I keep hoping for salvation. The function of our not seeing Cynthia's reaction is we can't gauge how sincere it was, so we are kept guessing till the author wants us to know how sincere she was. That's
a good thought, actually. Yeah. And yeah, but though I do really take Sarah's point that if you show it on stage, then there's no coming back, because once you've horribly traumatized someone by making them go through a grief process, I mean, this is the big problem here. Is the stakes here is really quite high in terms of emotional trauma, and the play doesn't care because it's all an intellectual idea. That's the other problem. This all feels so much like a thought exercise rather than a drama. And sometimes that's very enjoyable, but in this particular, the thought exercise it's almost the patient Griselle thing. Again, it's the test, and is she gonna, and it's just like stop test, just don't anyway. Aliki.
I do like that Lycus calls him a slime ball behind his back.
Everything he talks about gets the layer of slime on it.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's the best line so far.
We have one more scene to go before we stop and breathe and take a shower. Act 4, Scene 2. Enter Lysander like a soldier disguised at all parts, a half-pike, gorgeous, etc. He discovers the tomb, looks in, and wonders, etc.
Oh, miracle of nature, women's glory, men's shame, and envy of the deities. Yet must these matchless creatures be suspected, accused, condemned. Now, by the immortal gods, they rather merit altars, sacrifice, than love and courtship. Yet, see, the queen of these lies here interred, tearing her hair and drowned in her tears, which Jove should turn to crystal and a mirror make of them, wherein men may see and wonder at women's virtues. Shall she famish then? Will men, without dissuasion, suffer thus so bright an ornament to earth, tombed quick in earth's dark bosom? Ho! Who's in the tomb there?
Who calls? Whence are you?
I am a soldier of the watch and must enter.
Amongst the dead.
Do the dead speak? Ope, or I'll force it open.
What violence is this? What seek you here, where naught but death and her attendants dwell?
What wretched souls are you that thus by night lurk here amongst the dead?
Good soldier, do not stir her. She's weak and quickly seized with swooning and passions, and with much trouble shall we both recall her fainting spirits. 5 days thus hath she wasted, and not once seasoned her palate with the taste of meat. Her powers of life are spent, and what remains of her vanished spirit serves not to breathe but sigh. She hath exiled her eyes from sleep or sight, and given them wholly up to ceaseless tears over the ruthful hearse of her dear spouse, slain by banditos, nobly born Lysander.
And hopes she, with these heavy notes and cries, to call him from the dead? In these 5 days hath she made him but stir made but has she but made him stir a finger, or fetch one gasp of that forsaken life she mourns? Come, honored mistress, I admire your virtues, but must reprove this vain excess of moan. Rouse yourself, lady, and look up from death. Well said, 'tis well. Stand by my hand and rise. This faith has been maintained with better huswifery.
What are you?
Lady, I am sentinel, set in this hallowed place to watch and guard, on forfeit of my life, these monuments from rape and spoil of sacrilegious hands, and save the bodies, that without, you see, of crucified offenders, that no friends may bear them hence to honoured burial.
Thou seem'st an honest soldier. Pray thee then, be as thou seem'st. Betake thee to thy charge, and leave this place. Add not affliction to the afflicted.
You misname the children, for what you term affliction now in you is but self-humour, voluntary penance imposed upon yourself, and you lament, as did the satyr once, that ran affrighted from the horn's sound that he himself had winded. Which humour to abate, my counsel tending, your termed affliction, what I for physic give, you take for poison. I tell you, honoured mistress, these ingredients are wholesome, though perhaps they are untoothsome.
This soldier sure is some decayed apothecary.
Dear ghost, be wise and pity your fair self, thus by yourself unnaturally afflicted. Chide back heartbreaking groans, clear those lamps, restore them to their first creation, windows for light, not sluices made for tears. Beat not the senseless air with needless cries, baneful to life and bootless to the dead. This is the inn where all Deucalion's race, sooner or later, must take up their lodging. No privilege can free us from this prison. No tears, no prayers can redeem from hence a captive soul. Make use of what you see. Let this affrighted spectacle of death teach you to nourish life.
Good mistress, hear him. This is a rare soldier.
Say that with abstinence you should unloose the knot of life. Suppose that in this tomb for your dear spouse you should entomb yourself, a living corpse. Say that before your hour, without due summons from the fates, you send your hasty soul to hell. Can your dear spouse take notice of your faith and constancy? Shall your dear spouse, revive to give you thanks?
Idle discourser.
No, your moans are idle. Go to, I say, be counselled. Raise yourself. Enjoy the fruits of life. There's viands for you. Now live for a better husband. No? Will you none?
For love of courtesy, good mistress, eat. Do not reject so kind and sweet an offer. Who knows but this may be some Mercury disguised, and sent from Juno to relieve us? Did ever any lend unwilling ears to those that came with messages of life.
I pray thee, leave thy rhetoric.
By my soul, to speak plain truth, I could rather wish to employ my teeth than my tongue, so your example would be my warrant.
Thou hast my warrant.
Well then, eat, my wench. Let obstinacy starve, fall to.
Persuade my mistress first.
Slight, tell me, lady, are you resolved to die? If that be so, choose not for shame a base beggar's death. Die not for hunger. Uke, a Spartan lady, fall valiantly upon us. Oh, like a Spartan lady. Fall upon a sword, or drink a noble death. Expel your grief with poison. There 'tis. Seize it. Offering his sword. Tush, you dare not die. Come, wench. Thou hast not lost a husband. Thou shalt eat. Thou art now within a place where I command.
Protest, sir.
Well said. Eat and protest, or I'll protest and do thou eat. Thou eat'st against thy will. That's it, thou would say?
It is.
And under such a protestation thou hast lost thy maidenhead. For your own sake, good lady, forget this husband. Come, you are now become a happy widow, a blessedness that many would be glad of. That and your husband's inventory together will raise up husbands enough. What think you of me?
Trifler! Pursue this wanton theme no further, lest, which I would be loath, your speech provoke uncivil language from me. I must tell you, one joint of him I lost was much more worth than the racked value of thy entire body.
I know what joint she means.
Well, I have done, and well done, frailty. Profess, I don't know. How likest thou it?
Very toothsome ingredients, surely, sir. Want but some liquor to incorporate them?
There 'tis. Carouse.
I humbly thank you, sir.
Hold, pledge me now.
'Tis the poison that preserves life. I take it.
And drinks.
Do so, take it.
Sighing has made me something short-winded. I'll pledge it twice.
'Tis well done, do me right.
Pray, sir, have you been apothecary?
Marry have I, wench, a woman's apothecary.
Have you good ingredients? I like your bottle well. Good mistress, taste it. Try but the operation, 'twill fetch up the roses in your cheeks again. Dr. Verola's bottles are not like it. There's no guaiacum here, I can assure you.
This will do well, anon.
Now fie upon it. Oh, I've lost my tongue in this same limbo. The spring on it spoiled me things. It goes not off with the old twang.
Well said, wench. Oil it well, 'twill make it slide well.
Stottle says, sir, in his posterioroins,
The wench is learned. And what says he?
that when a man dies, the last thing that moves is his heart. In a woman, her tongue.
Right. And adds further that you women are a kind of spinners. If their legs be plucked off, yet they'll still wag them. So will you your tongues. With what an easy change does this same weakness of women slip from me, from one extreme to the other. All these attractions take no hold of her. No, not to take reflection. Reflection? Must not be thus. Well said, wench. Tickle that halcyon. But shall we quit the field with this disgrace given to our oratory? Both not gain so much ground of her as to make her eat?
Faith, the truth is, sir, you are no fit organ for this business. 'Tis quite out of your element. Let us alone. She'll eat. I have no fear. A woman's tongue best fits a woman's ear. Jove never did employ Mercury, but Iris for his messengers to Juno.
Come, let me kiss thee, wench. Wilt undertake to make thy mistress eat?
It shall go hard, sir, but I will make her turn flesh and blood and learn to live as other mortals do.
Well said. The morning haste. Next night, expect me.
With more provision, good sir?
Very good.
And makes to leave.
And bring more wine?
She
What
shuts
else?
up the tomb.
What else? Shalt have enough. O Cynthia, heir of her bright purity, whose name thou dost inherit, thou disdainst, severed from all concretion, to feed upon the base food of gross elements. Thou art soul, all immortality. Thou fast for nectar and ambrosia, which till thou find'st and eat'st above the stars, to all food here thou bidst celestial wars.
And exit Lysander. Thank God. What an asshole. Those brothers, who brought them up? Who put them in this direction? I mean, there's this sense of, there are elements of this scene that are trying to make you go, oh, look, he's trying to coax them with food and wine. Oh, isn't this nice? No, if he was someone else, it would be nice. But he set all this up, and she's clearly utterly traumatized.
Utterly. And how can he stand there and waffle on and pretend in the way he's pretending when she's there in front of him and he supposedly loves her? Like, what the actual fuck is this play doing? I'm sorry, but I'm really, really struggling with this one.
Yeah.
You're just saying what we're all thinking.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's sitting here going, you know what? It's such a lovely play, really. You're just not giving it a chance. Anyway, Aliki.
We've read a lot of problematic plays, but this is as close as I personally have ever come to shutting down my computer in mid-reading.
Yeah.
The only thing that beats this so far is the English Moor, and that only because we know it was super popular. Because Rob very well observed, not only do we hate this play, we hate its audience for loving it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and actually, I honestly think the English Moor is a much more interesting play than this is. There is actually something to really actually dig into in a way that
it had funny moments before it got really gross.
But it's also just a more complex play, and I'm not sure that this is actually deep down very complex. It's an intellectual exercise.
It's
that
dull.
Is very stark.
It's dull. It's just,
dull.
let's face it, it's dull. It's dull. It's unpleasant and misogynistic and dull. And we do a lot of plays that are misogynistic, and we do some plays that are quite unpleasant, but they don't tend to be dull. We've done the occasional play that has been dull as well. But to have all three together in
the trifecta,
exactly. I'm with Aliki. I have never come so close to sending you a message and saying, Rob, I can't come tomorrow, which I'm not going to do because I wouldn't do that. But I really, really want to. I really don't want to read any more of this play, and that's really rare for me. I can usually find something. Something interesting.
I was going to say, I mentioned Patient Griselle earlier, but when we were reading various iterations of that, what usually happens in the chat is just, can we kill this person now? Can we kill this? Can we kill them now? Can we kill them now? And that's sort of very much where we've been going. I mean, there's still something in a lot of this text that I think is really interesting in trying to analyze the way these things come about. It's just we're not just going to plonk this play on stage, because I don't think, outside of just as a technical exercise, I don't think you could. Lynn, then Aliki.
Yeah, on the one hand, I agree with Sarah that were I not devoted to the mission of the Beyond Project, I'd be like, I have a dental emergency. Yeah, that's it.
It is a coincidence that the room is smaller today from yesterday, and I assure you that has nothing to do with the quality of the play.
A couple people said yesterday before we knew, I actually can't make it tomorrow. But I would take your dull and say, it's not even, I wouldn't even play it the compliment of calling it dull. It's militantly tedious.
And maybe that's its saving grace, because it's demonstrating just how this kind of misogyny is just so tedious. I mean, it's just like just shut the up.
It just makes you tired. It just
Yeah, because you know what? It's not cool. It's just really boring.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking about last time, Tharsalio sort of being this incel, and yet he has this somehow he wins. I mean, he's basically won. At the end of Act 3, he wins. He's got the wife, and it's just like, and it's like that. There's no more development of that plot line. Spoilers, by the way. Really, it's done. This is the plot line now. Torturing your wife plot line. That's where we're going.
So then that actually even makes even less sense. If there's no more of it, then what I was saying earlier, it's really only there, I think, that plot line, in order to set up this plot line, in which case it's entirely in the wrong place. It needs to all happen much earlier so that Lysander can see the fruits of his brother's terrible, terrible labours. And then that instigates this plot line. It makes no sense to have the two overlapping like that and to spend so much time on the other one.
I don't agree on that thing. I think actually in practice it makes it moves perfectly logically within its own flow. Yeah. I don't see that. Within the sense that Lysander just has to be. I think the thing is they both swallowed this pill ages ago. They're both actually as bad as each other, and they always have been. It's not, heaven help poor Cynthia. Aliki and then Lynn.
Okay, so I'm trying. Sorry, I started this, and it's very much not in the spirit of our inquiry. What we try to do is see what you can do with it. So what can you do with it? With the English Moor, we imagined an anti-racist production that, for the possibility of such, we were too white a room to really go into it, but we thought there was that possibility. So let's see if we can imagine a feminist production of this, or at least a way of using some of it in a way that wouldn't bore a modern audience and make it angry.
Well, I think making it angry is perhaps actually a very positive thing. I so far think that actually the Tharsalio marriage plotline that we basically concluded now could actually function as a sort of standalone unit. You'd actually set aside the Lysander plot and as a separate beast. Of that, this is his going out there negging, trying to get this widow, and that this marriage at the end is just a nonsense. It doesn't exist. It's in his head, and he thinks he's won, and he's just this sad guy sat in his computer console, talking stuff, and that actually that could function perfectly well, actually. And I think there's plenty here with a lot of cuts, but then his expansive bollocks is sort of the point. And Chapman's dialogue suddenly makes sense because it's supposed to be bollocks, as opposed to arguably right. That's what Chapman, I think, is arguing here. It's like he's some way right. I don't know. Anyway, Lynn.
I disagree with Sarah very often, but I actually think the overlap of the plots and the order that it happens in works reasonably well, and it's actually, sadly, not psychologically illogical. My husband was just reading me aloud a story on Reddit like weeks ago, where a guy's like, "Oh, I think I screwed up. I've been with my wife for 10 years. We've been married for 3 years, and she's pregnant. And my friends talked me into asking her to get a paternity test. And so I did. And now she's really pissed off at me. What do I do?"
Who does that?
Men. Sorry, but
this is an "Am I the asshole?" thread.
I think maybe it was.
It must be. Yeah.
But it was, and everyone's like, "Oh, dude. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Good luck with your damage control." Yeah, and John was like, "You need new friends." Yeah.
Yeah.
But but this is what men do. They see another man in a happy heterosexual relationship, and they can't stand it. And so they poison that, and men are so invested in the approval of their peers, um, that that they go for that.
Mm.
So it's still happening. It's
Mm.
still
So,
happening.
so maybe we can internetify the whole thing. Maybe that's one way to do this
Mm.
production,
Yeah.
is turn it into a chat room kind of Reddit.
And we can maintain Lysander as a presence, but he doesn't have to be a literal brother anymore. He just becomes a bro.
Yeah.
And so the bragging and all the stuff, and you know, or he is his brother, and he's just telling him, "No, you're a dick. Stop doing this." Which at the first half
Which
of the
is what
play
he does.
and it's like
that's the
this
thing.
and it's like, but I think the point here is that it's the difference between what Tharsalio does to Wu is he goes in with utter confidence. It's like he's read a self-help book with confidence on it, you know, that he's, you know, signed up to the classes in confidence, which are actually just nasty control, money-grabbing operations. And that's the problem Lysander has. I don't think Lysander has a problem with the misogyny. That's the point, is
right.
that, you know, that's where you're getting the confusion. They're mocking him because he's wearing stupid clothes, thinks he is the big deal, and he's going to bag this widow, and he's clearly delusional. But somehow his confidence works. And the problem, sort of the problem there about the whole confidence thing is, you know, I'm not against people being confident and, you know, because it sounds like, but, you know, it's just not that he's confident, it's that he's an arse.
He's an arse, exactly. Yeah.
And just turns up where everyone repeatedly tells him to go away. And so, yeah, I think there is potential there. I think there is something there. I just don't think. And the problem is the play is too well structured. I think the play is incredibly well. I do not have a problem with the structure of the plot. I just don't like the plot. You know, it's you know. And I don't really like the writing. I mean, I think that's the other. That's you know, it's not as if it's witty, and in a way, it's this debate structure logic that he's just going to keep coming on, making his points until you listen, and it's just.
It's going to be hard. It would be hard for actors too. I was sort of surprised here. I was at a talk back with an actor who was in a play from about this period, which shall remain nameless. They said that they had done another text that was in a sort of modern translation, and said, you know, it was really hard to memorize that because it wasn't in verse, even though the language was more modern. I'm used to the da-dum, 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 and it was like, I've never been off book so late in the process in my career. And so much of this is really, really difficult prose. I think it would just give actors nightmares.
Well, it's also, I mean, Alan made this point about the syntax. It is weird. I think once you click into it, it's fine. I'm learning something at the moment that has a slightly odd, you know, period syntax, and the first week of trying to learn it was like just smashing my head against a wall. But once you sort of click into what it's doing, you go, okay, going in now. I think there is a run up you'd need to a text like this with any of the Chapman texts, you know, some of which we have liked. I'm just going to put it out there that we have occasionally liked Chapman. It's not universal. He just seems to be getting worse. As time goes on, we seem to like his plays less. So it's like he grows as a dramatist in the wrong direction, like a misformed tree. Alan, were you waving?
Yeah, and the point I was going to make in the previous break was when Sarah had raised that issue about shouldn't the Lysander plot be introduced after the resolution of the Tharsalio. It actually came up something like an act earlier. For no apparent reason. And I must admit, I don't find it particularly satisfactory plot anyway. And the Tharsalio one was pretty paper thin. And the Lysander one is just pure unpleasant.
Well, I think they're both quite unpleasant. They're just unpleasant in different ways. I mean, in the sense that Lysander is now actively harming someone for effect, as opposed to at least Tharsalio just kind of wanted to get married, you know, and just went about it in a really douchey way. So yeah. We'll find out how it ends. I'm sure it'll all be resolved and everyone will live happily ever after. Or maybe Tharsalio will get horribly stabbed.
In my ideal ending,
maybe they both will.
The Countess marries him, and then right before the wedding night, she has him arrested for assaulting her, and he gets executed. So she brings him to the brink of success and says, "Actually, you're dead."
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we don't know for a fact that an assault occurred. That was sort of just how it felt like it was going, but it wasn't anything explicit, and it maybe we're reading.
But even threatening a countess like that's a capital offense. She could have him executed.
That's true. Oh, just drawing a sword in her presence is probably sufficient, isn't it?
Absolutely, just drawing a sword in the same room with her.
Well, I'm going to close this session because I think we're just allowed to talk about something else. But all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for going through this with us all. One day we will go to therapy together. All that remains to thank the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. A company of dormice.